Happy Saturday evening, everyone, especially those here in Columbus. Are you inside in the air conditioner? It's hot. It's hot here. Don't go outside. It's ridiculous outside here in Columbus, Ohio. But sooner or later, it will be fall, and it'll be nice and crisp, and we will smell the football in the air. Can't you just smell it? We got 5 days until fall camp starts. That's huge, huge. All right. And listen, before I go on, click that like button and then click the subscribe button. We are right there, almost right there to 37,000 subs. Our goal is 40,000 right now. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Click that subscribe button, get us to 37K, and then we'll go from there, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Also, we got 35 Matt Wilhelm days until kickoff versus Texas. Matt Wilhelm was one of my favorite Ohio State linebackers. To me, he doesn't get talked about nearly enough. He's a 2002 national champion, great linebacker. I want to know what Nevada and our special guest thinks about Matt Wilhelm. But I got a little I would say honorable mention is Jim Otis. He's another number 35 back in 1968 won a Natty with Woody Hayes. He was an All-American. So it was a toss-up, but I went with Wilhelm because I love Wilhelm. Also, remember, for those hitting us tonight with Super Chats, your Super Chats helps to go towards the Pay It Forward, our military, and our first responders. We're going to take care of them because they take care of us. Y'all know what it is. All right, so Nevada, we got a great guest tonight. We got another super friend tonight. Can't wait to bring him on. How are you feeling, and how are you feeling about this guest?
Well, I'm super excited to talk to the great Intrinsic. We're going to Intrinsic. If you have enjoyed, follow him on Twitter and recently on Buckeye Scoop. Posting some stuff on there. Great insight on the Michigan scandal, a scandal that we all agree is underreported. It's underreported in the traditional media, even in the alternate media. It's underreported, and so we feel like we've got to kind of pick up the slack, talk about the most significant on-field cheating scandal in the history of college sports, with a pending punishment, which is going to be bad for Michigan. We put our collective minds together, and we can't figure out a way that this isn't really really bad for Michigan. But it's odd that nobody's talking about it. So hey, we're just here to do our part and educate the folks and get everybody ready for the hammer time for Michigan. So we're here for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, this man Intrinsic, he does an excellent job on Twitter. Not trolling, not just he brings receipts and facts. Just like our guy, our other super friend Justin Spiro, he's similar in the sense of his research is excellent. He points out things and just lays it out for you on a platter and brings the receipts, and we really really appreciate him for that. So let's bring him to the stage. Intrinsic, what is good, brother? How you feeling today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Doing well. Excited, man, to get things rolling with you. And I'm actually going to, at some point soon, I'm going to pull up Twitter and show what you posted earlier, your latest post, so we can kind of use it as a reference point. But actually, let me ask you this. So what really motivated you to really get into covering this topic like you do? And we greatly appreciate it because, we're one of a cluster of those who are righteous brothers who see this scandal for what it is and understand it deserves to be covered. So I guess what motivated you to really hop on that? And then as far as Buckeye Scoop goes, I guess what's your perspective for that?
Okay, so I'm a lifelong Michigan State fan. So by definition, I don't like Michigan, right? But what really got me motivated into this story is basically it goes against football, and I love football. Like a lot of people don't know, I got a full ride D1 scholarship for quarterback. I've played the sport. I'm not great or anything, but I know a little bit about what the game's about. And just like as a fan watching these games, when someone cheats on the field against 18 to 22-year-olds, to me that's like a sin that's unforgivable. Um, so that got me motivated. And then just talking with people on X and posting about it. the level of denial, deflection, just gaslighting and lies, it just fueled everything. It just fueled everything about it. And so basically it's just been a war on X going on for almost 2 years now of defeating these lies and narratives. And I mean, now we're at the point where we have the penalties coming. So let's just do what we've always done. Let's break down what we know and what that means. And so that's what I'm doing. And I've gotten help along the way as far as with lawyers and stuff, figuring this stuff out. And yeah, I think it's real interesting. And I think so as far as watching your guys' show, anybody that covers Michigan cheating, a lot of what I do is I post what they are saying, what everyone's saying in regards to it. So the audience can get a variety that not only are a lot of people talking about it, because it's not just Buckeye Scoop, Sports Talk Day talks about it, some Alabama Black, I think his name is. Anyways, there's a lot of fans that
Kangaroo
talk
Black.
about this. Kangaroo Black. Okay, yep. And not to mention, this was all over ESPN, ABC News. This is a major story. And so that just got me just like, let me post what everyone's saying. So it's not just, hey, Intrinsic saying this. He doesn't like us. Because yes, I don't like Michigan fans. That's obvious. But yeah, so that's where my motivations are.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I wish there were more like us who took this as serious as far as, basically from our standpoint. Obviously, we're Ohio State fans. We were directly impacted by this. So was Michigan State. So was other schools. But, we're the big rivals. And like Spiro always says, his response to the Michigan fans saying, well, y'all care the most. Well, yeah, what we would care the most. We were the most impacted. And I would argue the scheme was concocted and started and really flourished because we were cracking their heads in for 15 out of the last 16 years. Right. So it's like, of course, we're going to care. But because of how long this has taken, people are getting hammer fatigue. And so they kind of dropped off and whatnot. But we've been consistent, man. And we definitely appreciate your consistency with this because you've done an excellent job just pulling out receipts and facts. Nevada, you got anything on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, there's so many good things that you've done, but I think one of the best posts that you had that I think was I'm not sure if people really understood the significance of it, and I want to kind of circle back on it. And if I say something wrong or cite the wrong date, correct me. But it was in reference to the like the amendment to the NOA where there was like additional information provided to the NCAA, and that that Michigan apparently tried to prevent this information from being presented. And could you cover that intrinsic? Because I think that to me that's a big story, and not a story that has gotten a lot of run. And even with the people that have read it, I'm not sure if they understood the significance. But if you could cover that, because I really do think I think that's a big part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in covering this, I've gotten sources, and one of them is a compliance lawyer. So this is something that everybody missed, including myself, who covers this every day. So, anyways, there's an amendment to the NOA. If you look at the dashboard, which we all look at all the time to see like what's going on. If you guys remember, there was a delay because the NOA came out in August of 24. And that's when there was that initial draft NOA. And then we seen people from the media like Pete Thamel and Paul Feinbaum. And they were basically saying penalties are going to be light. And then Michigan had 90 days to respond. Well, almost like on the 83rd day, so this was in November, there was an amendment to that NOA. And it says member institution. So what that tells you is that is towards the level 1 failure to monitor charge, because member institution is towards Michigan specifically. And not just that, is that Michigan fought that evidence, which is why it ended up being a whole delay in the process. So whatever that piece of evidence was, Michigan wanted out, and it went in front of a COI so like a chief hearing officer, someone similar to who's judging Michigan right now. And they ruled against Michigan for the NCAA, saying that this evidence was material and it's not a low level evidence because it wouldn't held up the process for that many days. So yeah, so basically it bolstered the level 1 institutional charge, and since then it's gone completely quiet as far as anybody saying sanctions are light. And that's when we started hearing more about postseason bans, vacated wins. And I
Yeah.
believe some of that does have to do with we were getting closer to the COI during this period. But as this compliance lawyer explains to me, that almost certainly was someone coming forward. Because you got to understand, leading up to that notice of allegations, that the NCAA does not issue a notice of allegations until they feel like they've exhausted all investigation efforts. That is when they finally issue their notice of allegations. That I've unturned every stone and figured out everything that we possibly can that's going on. So they did that. And then so almost 3 months after that was done, someone came forward with material evidence that the COI viewed was impactful in this case for the level 1 failure to monitor, which if you're watching this and some of this is confusing, that is where the hammer is, in that level 1 failure to monitor.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's interesting in that. Obviously, obviously the level 1 failure to monitor against the institution is the hammer, as you say. The stuff against Sherrone Moore, he's going to get his suspensions, he's going to get his show cause, he's going to get whatever. Is the one against the institution, and we've been talking about it, that we believe that we're of the opinion, and based upon educated opinion, based upon information as well. Plus, we can read that this is going to be an aggravated failure to monitor. Are you in agreement with that? And maybe you can explain the difference between an aggravated failure to monitor and a mitigated failure to monitor, and what the significance of that distinction is.
Yeah, so there's three. There's aggravated, there's standard, and there's mitigated. So this case will almost certainly be an aggravated level 1 failure to monitor. And if you read the articles that are coming that were right in front of the COI, they say the most important part of what the COI is doing is weighing aggravators versus mitigators. And then so if you look back to the response NOA, so this is Michigan's response. They've leaked portions of it to Ross Dellinger, who is a good reporter. And they said in that response that the NCAA is exaggerating aggravating factors while, I can't think of the exact word, like ignoring mitigating factors. So the weighing of those factors tells you it's aggravated, and the NCAA was asking for an aggravated. So buried in that response NOA is Michigan, through this legal jargon, telling you that the NCAA was asking for a postseason ban. And why is that not covered? Why hasn't like a compliance lawyer, why do they have to reach out to Intrinsic on X for this to get figured out? And I can break down, because I've done this, I broke down the aggravating factors and mitigating factors and weighed them myself. And I've posted on X, hey, weigh these yourself, be your own judge. And no one has came and said that that the mitigating factors, which they have like 2 mitigating factors and they're half-hearted measures.
Yeah.
But one more point before I let this go is that this being an aggravated level 1, a huge part of it when you're talking about failure to monitor is compliance, the institution's compliance, their standards, and how they oversee, because this should have been caught by the compliance department. And the whole narrative coming from Michigan is that, they couldn't control Harbaugh. This was Harbaugh's problem to monitor. How is he supposed to know what Stallions was doing? Well, the reason why he was supposed to know is for one, the institution gave him authority to know, because he's supposed to monitor being the coach, and not just him. Partridge, I'm not sorry, Klinkstale and Minter were in positions of authority, so they had to they're all educated, including Stallions, on what's a violation, what's not a violation, and if you have to create a culture of compliance. So that means the ability to freely report things without fear of repercussions. There's this whole standards on it. But the biggest thing was the NCAA in that prior investigation identified with Harbaugh and the compliance director at Michigan um, that they had issues that they admitted to of monitoring non-coaching staff properly, and that this all started with Stallions from a non-coaching staff member breaking the rules for 3 years. So in 2022, the compliance department, which part of what they do is risk assessment, like what are high risk areas? Well, when Harbaugh says that he doesn't care about monitoring, that's something he's not really doing, the compliance department should be like, whoa, we need to really watch what he's doing. And there's a whole bunch of robustness to compliance departments. And like I mentioned, there's something called the NAAC Reasonable Standards and Practices. This is something that's done in every single program. Michigan is not being picked on. This is something that every program does. And part of the responsibility to cooperate, which leads to this being aggravated, is all based on the bylaw 1921, is that there was not a culture of compliance and cooperation in Michigan. Um, and so they're going to hang that on the institution because they had reasons to believe from the prior level one. So they had a prior level one on the failure to monitor during the Harbaugh recruiting cheeseburger, if you want to call it. And so they had issues identified then. So that's the NCAA is going to see this as aggravating, and they're not. And so when Michigan self-imposed that 2-game suspension, they did it days to just maybe a week or two before the COI hearing. And part of the mitigating factors, I believe it's either C or it's C in the mitigating factors, is that you promptly acknowledge and take accountability and self-impose proper suspensions. So if Michigan really wanted the COI to, consider it a mitigator, they would have done it last season.
Yeah.
Immediately as soon as he deleted those texts, they should have been like, nope, shouldn't have done that, and we're going to hold you accountable to a standard level 2 violation, which is what they're saying he did as a standard level 2, but he's by definition a repeat violator, so he'll be aggravated. But hope I answered that not too long.
Well, no, it's a great answer, because Spiro had spent a lot of time, and when we talk, online and offline, he's convinced that the language in the first COI cheeseburger gate, whatever you want to call that document that came out for Michigan, was really almost like a preamble to the second one, that they were kind of foreshadowing what they're going to be doing by the fact that Harbaugh had created this culture of non-compliance in which these transgressions flourished or something. I mean, is that basically what you're saying as well, more eloquently than I just said it?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And Spiro, of course, he's dead on. He's dead on with these things. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because understand that NR came, I believe it was in April of 2024. And so they had the Stallions sign gate and everything that came out after that. So they were doing that negotiated resolution and writing it and writing that decision, knowing this other investigation's going on. So everything you read from that negotiated resolution has tidbits that are all, to me, when I read them, they're all speaking about monitoring and really highlighting that. And I have quotes on that if you guys want them. But the main thing is that the way that I like to say it is they were setting them up for this second charge to be even bigger. And that other one was already a level 1. You gotta understand that a failure to monitor is a level 2. But so when a place gets a failure to monitor, it's a level 2 violation. Only does it start becoming a level 1 when you have more of these aggravating factors and you have like a longer history of it going on, and they view the severity and scope of it to be wider. And so yeah, I'm absolutely of that. And Spiro, of course, is right on that.
Now,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead,
Another,
Nevada.
yeah, I was gonna say, just so many questions, so many questions.
Oh, yeah.
If I talk over you, B, just start yelling at me and I'll shut up. But
Stop it, Nevada.
stop
Stop
it,
it.
stop badgering Intrinsic. Be nice to Intrinsic. Some of my hold on. Now I lost my train of thought as I was going through
My bad.
little comedy exchange there. No, the so what? Yeah, here was my. I'm getting back on track now. So Michigan goes through all this. Obviously, the first one, Cheeseburger Gate, was adjudicated per se as part of a negotiated resolution. Um, Obviously, you're not in the room and everything. Give us your theory as to why Michigan, for whatever reason, couldn't come to a negotiated resolution on this second sign stealing, advanced surveillance, illegal activities thing, and why did they go to the full Monty on this? And how unusual is it for institutions to go the full Monty in terms of a hearing?
Well, this whole thing is very unusual because the idea of the NCAA in general is that you follow the rules, and then when something comes up, you know the NCAA is going to come hard on, like come twice as hard on you if you don't just basically like you're responsible to hand over everything that you have and help with the investigation. Like that is by standard. So, anyways, I believe that they were looking at. I don't know if the NCAA was asking for 2 or 3 year postseason ban, but I believe that they were asking for something like that, and they basically and you guys can talk about vacated games, but I don't know where Michigan's pain point was, but they obviously were asking for something that Michigan could not stomach, and that had to be. I think they would vacate games, just regular games, if it didn't take away their natty. So to me, they were looking at we're going to get a level 1 aggravated failure to monitor anyways. That can carry up to 3 years. It's possible we can take it to the COI and maybe get it down to 1. Uh, that's 0 to 1 range. Maybe we can get it standard. I That's my best guess. And like I said, I'm not in the room, but yeah, it's very clear the NCAA was asking for something that they could not stomach to get it this far. And I believe that part of it goes from if you look at they wanted to finish out that season. And what they should have done if they wanted to do this properly, and you had Sports Talk Jay on here just recently, and Tennessee set the example, which is now in the bylaws for exemplary cooperation. If they wanted to get this mitigated, and I understand with Tennessee, they were looking at an aggravated level 1 failure to monitor. So they would be looking at what Michigan's looking at now, right? That's with the postseason ban, which is people don't understand how bad a postseason ban is nowadays. Like Josh Pate is like there's no way they'll do that because how bad it hurts
Right.
programs. But anyways, that it got Tennessee from exemplary cooperation, took it from aggravated to standard. They didn't have a mitigated level 1. But anyways, so yeah, I believe that they would have to take the appropriate steps, which would have been basically placing Harbaugh on leave, right? And anything else they uncovered, they would have brought in a third party. So they would have had to have done a bunch of steps that would have killed that season. And they basically said, no, we know due process can delay this thing. There's only a certain limit to which Petiti can punish us. So as long as we can win those games. So they made the calculation that they could get the natty, basically, and deal with the repercussions later.
Yep.
So
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting because I've always likened it. It's like golf. In golf, you're supposed to call your own strokes. You call your own penalties. You know what I'm saying? So I always use that example with the NCAA. The NCAA expects you to self-police. They expect you to follow the rules. If you have questions about the rules, you can reach out to them. You can reach out to your compliance people. You can get rulings. You can do things. And then when when something is found to have been done wrong, you act promptly, appropriately, and with a significant amount of care in terms of taking care of the issues. And that's what Tennessee did. Tennessee kind of went in and they were firing people and taking corrective actions and trying to do everything they could to avoid that aggravated. And I would counter with, I feel like Michigan, if there was an award for the most aggravating circumstances, I think Michigan would get. I mean, Michigan literally checks every box
Yeah.
for aggravating factors. Like, did they miss one? Was there a single one that they missed?
So they're 7 out of the 11 that I know for sure that they have. That I know for sure. And like I said, there's 2 half-hearted measures of mitigating. And this is ignoring.
What are give me those, because I want to. What are the? Don't tell me that 2-game handpicked 3 and 4 for the season. Are you including that one in the bonanza for
I'm
them?
including that as a half-hearted measure. I'm also including Partridge being and Stallions being removed from the team when they
Oh,
found out. I'm giving them a lot. Okay, so
you
you gotta
are, you
understand,
are.
I'm trying to be as fair as possible,
Yeah.
right? Because I know that I'm biased. I know I do not like Michigan. And so when I go through this, I want Michigan fans to read my stuff and then tell me where I'm wrong. Like, I would love for them to tell me where I'm wrong. Like, even if I give you some of these, it's not close. This is aggravated. And that's why and so I was working with this lawyer, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm so convinced they're like, and this is not something where like Josh Pate has this wrong. The core penalties, they go right to 19-1, they look at the core penalties and they apply it. So there's no interpretation. If they get an aggravated level 1 failure to monitor, they will be getting a 1 to 3 year postseason ban. And so yeah, I did this whole spiel like on the whole. I went through this entire case, like if I was prosecuting this entire case, exactly how the NOA is going to be lined up to explain this. And as you do that, you kind of understand like what Spiro had talked about, that this has been set up from the prior case. And yeah, they're getting that. So I'm extremely confident in that. And so what the NCAA can do beyond that is up to them. But there's a lot of leeway for them to set precedents with this case. But if we just go off of stuff that isn't unprecedented, that's just in their rules right now, they're getting hammered. It's just that simple.
Yeah, but wait a second though. Tony Petiti wrote a letter. Tony
Okay.
Petiti wrote a letter. And so that's got to change the calculus for you, doesn't it? Doesn't that you're like, everything I said, I'm going to just erase now because Tony Petiti wrote a letter supporting them. Is that
Correct.
your
Correct.
is that your position? And am I stating your position correctly, Intrinsic, or am I misstating the facts?
Well, how that one worked, right? As soon as that letter comes out, I get standard procedure from my lawyer, right? Who to me is that's standard procedure. That literally just how it works. And then so I tweet that out, and then Spiro goes, and I believe he's seen it under his post, and he does all the research. He's just amazing at research. And it is just standard procedure. And he recanted it anyways, basically, when he interviewed. He's like, that's what I'm supposed to say. I mean, could we at least give them 24 hours to celebrate?
Right.
Like
Right.
they've done nothing but but
Oh, they were
yeah.
celebrating. They were popping the champagne, and they were burning couches and doing some rioting and stuff like that. They were rolling all around. They were just like, "We won." Tony Petiti wrote a letter, and I'm like, I don't think this is what you think it is, guys.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just standard procedure. Yeah, it's the way it's a conference commissioner lobbying for a member institution is the way that it was described to me. It happens every single time. It's never
Yeah.
not happened.
And that was a quick turnaround on that L. It's funny, we were talking, me and Intrinsic were talking, just laughing at the turnaround time for that L was so quick. I mean,
Yeah.
Nevada, they literally had 20 hours. I mean, and like the next morning, or not the next morning, but when he did the press conference, it was like, oh, like the crowd just died down and walked away. But
they were
People
dunking
were
on
so
you.
mad.
They were dunking on you like the boys dunked on you in high school. There, be it.
Oh, first of all, ain't nobody dunk on me. I was doing the dunking on, but yes, they were trying to. They were tagging me and
God.
see you suck eye, we got you. And I'm just like, oh Jesus, man, please, Lord, help me deal with these idiots. But so real quick, I just want to intervene and ask the people. I'm talking to the people right now, people in the chat, the Stilly Mats, the Bud Kirks, the Barbs, whoever, the people out there watching. Are y'all listening to this? I'm asking you this for a reason. Because, you know, people, first of all, who leave trolling comments and just say stuff, they don't listen to what we say and they don't read. Okay. So if you are listening, everything this man has said, everything we've been talking about is not just, you know, opinions based off of saltiness or hate. This cat is bringing out bylaw receipts. Okay. You can go see this on the NCAA website. All of this stuff he's talking about, the aggravated fact. I guarantee y'all the Michigan media is not looking at this stuff. If they are, they're being very dishonest. They're being even more dishonest with their people, because I've never heard the Ballases, the Scam Webbs, the Isaiah Holes, any of them address this. They have not combated this. They have not refuted this or debunked this. Their only response to the Intrinsics and the Spiros and the Scoops is, nuh-uh, you suck guys are mad because we beat you. Or our brand is too powerful. That's their responses. Go ahead, y'all.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's go. I like I said, because I know that I could keep you here all night, Intrinsic, and ask you all these questions because I'm a nerd on this entire topic here, Rick. But as based upon what you know, and what you've gleaned and what you think and just your information, gun to your head right now, you name the punishments for Michigan and for the gang that couldn't shoot straight up there. What does this look like when this whole thing hits? Where do you think this thing ends up?
And real quick, I'm sorry, let me jump in, Intrinsic. Go ahead and answer. But after that, I want to make sure we pull up the Twitter and really hit on the topic of the show before it's too late about the college football playoff confirming that the NCAA can take Michigan's Natty. We want to make sure we circle to that. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So one thing, I never want to make this about me, but if my own predictions are, I'm like at least 95% certain they're getting a 2-year postseason ban. They could get up to a 3. So I'm highly confident in that. I believe the vacated games, and I believe they're going to use an eligible player model and cherry pick games, and that's going to piss everybody off. I'm less confident in that, and Moses and I have had arguments about that, but like I believe they're definitely going to vacate games, and you'll have to bring up the post earlier. I have a feeling that that's where people might get upset, just because of the way I'm reading the languaging is a lot to do with this whole aggravated failure level to 1 monitor charge. But also there's a big unknown with vacated games, which is why I have such a hard time having confidence in my prediction on vacated games, because you have common sense that Michigan built that entire 23 team on cheating, right? They cheated through 7 games of that season. Without those 7 games, they're not making the Big Ten championship. They're not making the playoffs. And don't give me that they would have won those games, because I watched Michigan lose to Toledo. I watched them lose
Right.
to App State. And it's just football. People lose games they should not lose. And Harbaugh felt he needed to cheat to win those games. It's if there's just justice on the players, he did it, right? So I do think, reading the Big Ten letter that I did post today, the NCAA, to not vacate games, they have to walk back these statements. They have to say that, and maybe you should bring that up here, Moses. But they have to walk back these statements about basically talking about competitive advantage, and how not only that, this causes a continuing disadvantage to future opponents. So these have been games after Stallions had been removed, that there's a disadvantage because they need to change their signs. And if you do pay attention, Stallions, when he crashed out on X over Sonny Dykes speaking the truth, but when Stallions basically admitted, yeah, you need to change your signs when you play us. That's basically what he said. And so, and if you look at the Big Ten letter, that's what they're saying too. There's a continued disadvantage. There's a continued disadvantage of the university's opponents, because they could no longer rely on their previous systems of signs. and then they talk about other things too. But that's literally what Stallion said. Yeah, if you had signs, you need to change them versus us. And if that's not some type of advantage, and it's because it was done illegally. People say sign stealing is because it was done illegally.
Right.
That's the difference. Because you can get more off the tape, and I don't want to go rehash that whole argument, but the NCAA would have to walk back those comments that they had early on, I believe, for there not to be vacated games. So I believe we're going to see a 2-year postseason ban. We're going to see vacated games, which they're gonna use an eligible player model to just say games in which the scheme was used, which isn't gonna make a lot of sense. It's gonna piss a lot of people off, but that's just my feel of it. Like I said, I'm less confident on vacated games than I am on the postseason ban. So
Now on the vacated games, I've always been curious about the NCAA obviously, and they stepped back from this, but going all the way back to the Penn State scandal, where they vacated 11 years of Joe Pa's victories. What was the premise? What was the NCAA premise for vacating games or whatever they did back then? Are you familiar enough with that to kind of cross reference? Did they use the sportsmanship policy? Did they like what was the standard by which they originally took those 11 years of victories away from Joe Pa and Penn State?
yeah, so like you said initially, because they overturned it, and the only reason they overturned it, not because the NCAA doesn't have the ability to vacate games for conduct. It's under their additional penalties section in their
Yes.
bylaws. They
Yes.
can they can vacate games for, especially when you're talking about level one institutional violations, they can just do it as a deterrent. Like, hey, listen, if you get level one aggravated level one penalties, we can do whatever we want with you, basically. So yeah, I actually posted about the Penn State one because it's very similar. The reason that they were so harsh on Penn State, and there's obviously the scandal, but they were real. The NCAA was like the institution at Penn State. I know Penn State feel this is unjust, and I'm sorry for some Penn State fans listening, but the reason was they mentioned the cult-like blinders that allowed this to go on. And so when I look at Michigan, and this goes back to earlier, if you want to talk about a cult, like there is enabling that goes on at Michigan, and you see it. And there, I don't blame their fans so much for behaving like this because their major beat reporters behave like this. The university president behaves like this. Their head coach behaves like this. They set the stage for how the rest of everyone's going to act because you look
Yeah.
up to these people. And
Yeah.
so if they want to make a statement, NCAA wants to make a statement, they can. And I believe Michigan will try to, they can appeal it, basically, because that would be outside the core penalties, right? So they can appeal that if they want, but if they want to really fix, and they view this is a cultural problem that allowed this to persist, then they can absolutely do it. And it is relevant to Penn State. It is definitely relevant to Penn State, even though people want to say this one is in their scope, and they can do that. It's up to people I just don't know and how they view that. So
Yeah, because I mean, when you when you go back and you look at the Penn State thing, I mean, the evidence by which they got hammered on was so flimsy. I mean, compared to the mountain of evidence they've got in this Michigan case, and you
Yeah.
go back to a 4-year postseason ban, 50 scholarships gone, $50 million fine, 11 years of wins wiped out. I mean, holy guacamole. I mean, they
Yeah.
were, what I'm saying? I mean, they got hit bad. And like I said, I compare that to this one where you've got 57 games pre-scouted over years, involving people knowing up and down the food chain, documented that people had knowledge of the scheme and didn't do anything about it. And I mean, I like I said, I would be shocked. I agree. I think to me the most relevant penalties are the go forward penalties, but I know there's a lot of people feel differently. I mean, a lot of people in our community feel like if it's not if it's not 21, 22, and 23 in the Natty done, then this is a meaningless penalty. And like everybody's going to feel how they're going to feel. No matter what, the Michigan fans are going to try to minimize the punishment and say, "Oh, this was not a hammer. We got away with it." And but a multi-year bowl ban to me is that's the most of all the hammers. That's the most hammerific. Although taking away that natty in 23 would be pretty tasty too. So we got lots to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah, and we actually on a pod, Intrinsic, a few pods ago, me and Nevada went back and forth about our list of hierarchy of what we want the most.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, and I said that natty has to go. To me, it's logical. And just as a side note, for those who watched me and Funky for a while, we did a show where we showed receipts just like this, proving that you can vacate wins if it's not an ineligible player involved. We showed you.
Has there been any comment from the CFP chair about that?
And you are a wise man, sir. That is a great segue I'm getting to. Yes, sir. So, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to actually play maybe a 40-second clip of him saying this. Okay, so you can't say we just made it up. But yes, that's going hand in hand. We talked about this. We showed you in black and white that you can vacate wins, and it's not just because you're ineligible. There's room, and it's there in the bylaws. And so now, once again, we're doing that with Intrinsic, and there will be no refutation for it. It's just a bunch of nuh-uhs. So I'm going to pull that up. You guys got anything to say while I pull this up?
Intrinsic.
Yeah, no, I just think as you're reading this, just understand. Oh, so you got this guy. Yeah, play this one first.
All right, let's do it.
Well, first, NCAA we're great partners, right? We are a separate entity. However, we work with NCAA. I'm part of the FB Soccer Football Bowl Subdivision Oversight Committee, so I'm a part of that committee. So we abide by NCAA rules. They are the governing body. Our commissioners also are going to, manage this whole process with us. So there certainly could be a situation where a school lost a trophy. So I will not say it'll never happen. However, it wouldn't be my decision. That is not in my governance structure, not in my contract.
All right. So there you have it. So basically, and just for those, and I don't know, did everyone hear that? Nevada Intrinsic, did that come through clear?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay, cool. So real quick, because Intrinsic, I saw Michigan fans on your post claiming that it was vague and not necessarily about Michigan. Well, this clip doesn't include the entire clip. They said clearly Michigan, but to this cat, before he went into his spiel, they mentioned Michigan. All right. So there was no bones about it. All right. But even like Intrinsic said earlier, and I got you, brother, I'm going to repeat what you said. Even if they didn't mention Michigan, it doesn't matter. It's a universal principle he's talking about. And this always blew me away, Nevada, when people would say, oh, they can't take the title. Well, that's like saying, what's the logic on the BCS? That was a separate entity from the NCAA, but they were governed by them. It's the same principle and the same concept. We've been telling you this for months, but this dude who was on the CFP, a high-ranking official with the CFP, is telling you right now that if the NCAA comes in and says, we don't recognize this title, then they're going to follow suit because they're governed by the NCAA. I mean, that's another blankie we're snatching from these Linus Michigan fans. Go ahead, fellas.
Well, I'll just say, look, to me, it's just procedural. Like if they strip wins away from 21, 22, 23, then the Big Ten is going to take away the Big Ten titles because you weren't eligible to be the Big Ten champion.
Right.
If you're not eligible, if you lose wins in 2023 when you had Connor Stallions on the sideline at the Central Michigan game and actively cheating for the first 7 games, we haven't even gotten to that Central Michigan game yet. Let's make sure we get on Intrinsic on that. But I don't see how you were eligible to even be in the college football playoff, let alone the Big Ten champion. I've been told that they won't recognize. I'm using that specific words that the NCAA will not recognize this, and the governing bodies will follow suit. And that's why I've always been convinced that the Big Ten titles and the Natty was going to be taken down. And to me, I think that was when you talk about the fly in the ointment, the reason why this went to the full hearing. I think the NCAA is after the Natty. in 23, because I don't see how you can't be. They were actively cheating. And you know, if you can remember the famous Greg Schiano interview during the first half of that game, the first half of 23, when he was nearly coming out of his skin, ready to kill somebody in a game that they were in. You talk about games that Michigan could have lost. That's a game they could have lost. And that would have been one of those, how in the world do you lose to Rutgers games? But you
While
managed to do
cheating.
it while
While
cheating.
cheating, while
Yeah.
cheating, like, don't forget that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the lot, like, I spoke with Mo, and we had like a debate on this, and I will say, you guys really do put in the work, like, because if you come up here and you're wrong on a lot of this stuff, I mean, I can't imagine the heat you guys take. But Moses and I had really good back and forth on it. I believe you follow the logic. You take one game in 20, just one. How do you let the rest stand?
Yeah.
And the logic just says, okay, well, if 7 of those games are going to be vacated, then they're not eligible, like you said, and just as a cascading effect from there. They're not eligible for the Big Ten championship game, then they're not eligible for the title. It's just, you know, I don't know these people, and it's hard for me to just trust them that they're going to do the right thing, because I was able to find one case, and it was Missouri Valley State volleyball in like 2019. They went on some foreign trip, and they had ineligible players for like 10 volleyball matches, and then they didn't, but it was a bad team. They were like 10 and 22, so that they didn't have a chance to like go to a tournament or nothing, but they only vacated the games, those 10 games. So they can use an eligible player model to what I would just have to say is like wimp out of it. I just I just don't see how they could be logically consistent and do that. Um, but
Well,
yeah,
when they have evidence, when they have the master spreadsheet of Michigan illegally scouting 53 games, I think 53, 57, whatever it was. I mean, that's okay. I'll take 53 vacated. I mean, that's I mean, that's what should happen. You know, all those opponents got scouted. I mean, didn't they scout like literally every single one of our games?
I
8
think they scouted you
games,
guys 8 times. Yeah,
8
yeah,
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
yeah.
So it's
They
like,
really didn't
uh,
like you guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, well, but you know, you know, I also love the argument that it wouldn't make much difference knowing the signals. It's like, as
Oh
somebody,
my God.
yeah, then I haven't played the game at the same high level you guys have, but I've coached, and if you know what the other team is going to run, it makes a big difference. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and I'll say this, and it's funny, shout out to my barber, Joaquin Bailey. What's up, brother? At the barbershop earlier, we were talking about it. And I was just Nevada. I was irritated all over again because yes, when I played football, I played safety, I played wide receiver, right? So, I saw both sides of the ball. But even if you didn't play, even if you're just a football head and you know the game, you don't even, this is for everybody. You didn't have to play on any level. You understand that if if it's a run, let's say it's safety, it's a run, right? Why even be on guard for the deep pass?
Yeah.
Just get down in the box. Just go and trigger. That's all you got to do. If you know that it's a pass, then you can, move your coverage accordingly. If you know Jeremiah Smith is going deep, roll a safety over. Like, why is this hard? You're being intellectually dishonest and you're being delusional and a liar. If you actually try to argue and consider yourself a ball knower, argue that it does not matter. Well, you just got to still line up and stop the play. How stupid are you if you consider yourself a person who fancies yourself as a ball knower? It's crazy. What's the point of play action then? Riddle me that. What's the point? Like, it's dumb. It pisses me off when
It's
anybody says that
gaslighting.
about it. Like, it's ridiculous. So anyway, I want to keep my blood pressure down because that right there, as a sports guy, like that really, really sets me off because you're just being dishonest with yourself. Period.
But here, what's the NCAA think though? Because that's what really matters. What do they think? And
Yeah.
what you have pulled up there, if you click the first image, I
Yep.
mean, they say that they felt disclosure was necessary due to the unprecedented scope and then alleged scheme, and because of the significant impact the
Yes.
impermissible scheme could have on competition. Significant impact. They're not talking about, this this is a small impact in the games. They're saying this has a significant impact. And not just that, they viewed this as so significant that they believe the impact continued to future games as well, including my Sparties, in which there was discussions whether we would play the game. And unlike Michigan, who ducked in 2020, we don't duck games even if our coach leaves or whatnot. I had to get my Michigan State I had to
I
get my
like
Michigan
it.
State thing in
I
there.
like it.
But it says that. I mean, it says it in the Big Ten letter, and so that's why I think the evidence for vacating games is in that Big Ten letter, and because these are the NCAA statements in that letter, and those would be
Yes.
the ones arguing to the COI what they want to happen, and so and it and they when they do that, which is why I always hashtag mine competitive advantage. They're going to talk about competitive advantage because that's why games get vacated. That's why games get vacated for ineligible players, is because when there's an ineligible player, that provides some type of advantage as if that player had not been playing, right? Just like knowing the plays provides some kind of a competitive advantage had you not known them. So it should be straightforward for how they see it. I just don't know. I'm just not in the room with these guys. That's my only point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So real.
I
Oh, go
liked
ahead,
in the
Nevada.
letter. Yeah, I was going to say I liked in the letter the fact that they recognized, to me, which is this is the biggest smoking gun of them all, is the fact that Connor Stallions was in the chair of cheer and had the seat
Yes.
of honor right next to the offensive and defensive coordinator
Oh yeah.
during games. I mean, like, the fact that that little factoid was not was not missed on them, shows you how important he was to Michigan, because that's something that none of us have ever seen before. I mean, I've never seen that. Nobody's even heard of some low-level staffer sitting right next to the defensive and offensive coordinator, yelling at them in real time what the heck's going on. Maybe you've seen it before in Intrinsic, but I've never seen it.
Well, here's the thing is, there's been almost 2 years now. Why hasn't anybody found someone who's like Stallions doing the same thing?
Bingo.
Supposedly there's this network. Like I watch, like just pick any game, watch the highlights. Where in the world does this happen? Like I broke down the TCU game. Like you could break down any game you want. Where's the guy standing next to the coordinators telling them what's going to happen? I don't think this is what I think it's an excuse Michigan uses. And regardless, they brought in U.S. integrity in this letter as well. I don't believe I have it highlighted, but they brought in a third party to check their biases that this scheme had an impact as well. I don't know if you caught that, Moses
I
or
did not.
Nevada. Yeah, so if you, I don't believe I have it pulled up. If you pull up the full Big Ten letter, in part of this Big Ten letter, they consulted with, that's where U.S. integrity got involved.
I
Yeah,
saw
that's why
that.
this
I
letter
saw
has.
U.S. integrity in the letter, but what you followed with, I didn't catch that. So that's interesting.
Well,
Yeah,
it's funny. It's funny because
yeah.
I know the U.S. integrity guys, and the U.S. integrity guys, they're generally looking for suspicious betting patterns, but they're also looking for outliers, performance outliers. And they had flagged this thing before this thing had ever been gone. They had flagged this as a performance outlier, but they couldn't. They didn't know the scheme because there was no suspicious betting that was going on Michigan. But Michigan started covering the spread and specifically the second half spread at just an
Yes.
obscene number. And
Yeah.
so, like, that stuff does not, these guys in Vegas don't miss that stuff. I mean, that's when you go from being a team that, covers the spread 46% of the time, and all of a sudden you're covering the spread 74% of the time over years. That's an outlier. That's an outlier,
Well,
but they didn't know why. But now they know.
so Nevada, since you know these, why would they bring them in for a third party to look at this over? Why would
Well,
they bring them in?
I mean, they have a relationship with the big. I mean, the U.S. Integrity has a relationship with Major League Baseball and National Hockey. I mean, basically every big league, the Big Ten, the SEC, and my understanding of it is that they were initially brought in to look for suspicious betting pattern to see if there was any type of evidence. It's kind of like on these player props where these players pull themselves out of the game in the NBA after 1 minute, and somebody dropped $75,000 and the guy to go under 6 points or something like that. And I think they were looking for that initially, but but I don't know that. But I do know that again, U.S. Integrity was on this months before this thing had broke, because all the quants there in Vegas couldn't figure it out. Why they were having to adjust the lines for Michigan, out of the, just out of the whack. And it was like, man, either Michigan has found some sort of secret sauce that we just keep underestimating them in Vegas, and specifically in their second half adjustments, or something else. But nobody could figure out what the something else was. But like I said, now we all know.
So here's what I think, just because I don't have all that background you do in knowing U.S. integrity, but when I'm just reading this document, it to me looks like they brought in U.S. integrity to go over their decision about competition beforehand and afterhand, and if it was fair, and if it
Right.
provided an advantage. That's just the way I see it, and why it's
Yep.
mentioned in this letter. So it just speaks to this being determined
point.
being determined a competitive advantage. So I mean, that's how I see it.
Real quick to your point, fellas, and what you just said, Intrinsic. Now I'm gonna keep the Twitter feed up on the screen for reference, but I'm looking at the Petiti letter. I got that on another tab, looking at it. And just to remind y'all, it says, I believe this is page 1. It says the goal of the scheme was to gain an unfair advantage by stealing the signs of teams that the university's football team was due to play later in the season. And then it goes into the sportsmanship policy and states it. So again, in this letter that we keep referring to, that Michigan fans don't want to acknowledge, the stage was set. It used so much strong verbiage, unprecedented. And even on the screen right now, Intrinsic, at the bottom, I know you mentioned that they said it was significant. They also used the word, it said university football team was ongoing and created a substantial risk of compromising the integrity of football. And so it's so much strong language that was used. And I do think you make a good point. I think before they even put all this out here in an unprecedented fashion, they really did research and really put their, dotted their I's and crossed their T's before they presented this, because this was like, man, we got to make sure this is crazy. This is different.
Yeah.
But I mean, this letter was not backed down. It wasn't when Tony wrote that little supportive letter that they all do, he didn't go back and erase all this. He didn't, what's the word I'm looking for? The phrase I'm looking for, walk back. He didn't walk back none of this stuff, right? This hasn't changed. And so Michigan fans need to understand that. And this is not sign stealing that you can legally do. Stop saying that, Michigan fans. You're not on trial for legal sign stealing. Stop being dumb. Either you're playing dumb or you are dumb. It makes no sense for you to say that. This is not what you're on trial for. Everybody doesn't go to other stadiums and record their signals and then upload it so it can be married up with actual plays. That's what you're getting popped for. And in addition to that, you're getting popped for aggravated factors because you didn't comply, you weren't cooperating, you were destroying evidence, giving a double burden to media, all that other stuff. So let's just be honest about this. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just wish. I mean, again, had I think about the knowledge. Say either you guys had this knowledge, you were aware that Connor Stallions had stolen the signs of whomever, Ohio State, whoever, and you're going to play that team. Dude, I would have bet the ranch on Michigan in those games.
Oh man,
I would have bet the ranch on Michigan. I'm like, their signals, you know what they're going to run. Because Michigan, some of those games, Michigan was getting 9.5, 10 points. They were huge underdogs. And it's like, I mean, I just, again, forget all the U.S. integrity and forget, knowing football, not knowing football, coaching football, playing football, whatever it is. Just if you know, like, hey, Nevada, Michigan's got their signs. They're going to know all their plays before they're like, okay. I can tell you what I've been doing. I'd have been running down to the casino and play some bets
stacking
right
dough.
there. Stacking dough, man. Exactly. I mean,
It's like
come on.
having Gray's Almanac, like the Back to the Future, sports Gray's Almanac.
Exactly.
Do you know who else
Yeah.
would have been doing that? Is the same Michigan fans who say that this doesn't matter. They would have been betting. They would have been betting the same. It's just because it's their team. I just find remarkable how much they had between October when this was found out to like early November they say no and can prove. The only thing that they mentioned in the Big Ten letter that basically they still had to investigate was how many other people knew. But they had the games nailed down. They had footage of these people and ticket purchases. I mean, they had this thing nailed down quick, which makes me wonder because there's so many talks about, like, well, you mentioned the South Carolina game, someone saying, hey, my friend is knowing there's this Michigan staffer uh
Yeah.
doing illegal thing. It makes me wonder, and obviously the Sonny Dykes and TCU, when did people start talking about this and reporting it? And when exactly was there some type of investigation looking into this, whether it was by US Integrity or whether it was by the NCAA? Because how do they have all this information in such a short time?
Well,
What's your guys'
Nevada?
thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, from my understanding is, first of all, this came from within Michigan. Not Ryan Day's brother or anything like that. This came from Michigan, right? So there's that, but it's kind of coupled with the thought that, yeah, me and Nevada was kind of like, dang it, how did I not see this? When we were pulling up screenshots of message board reports from Clemson, was it the Tennessee board or the Clemson board?
Tennessee board.
Tennessee board. Yeah, the Tennessee board saying what you just said, Intrinsic, like, hey, I got a friend who's out here recording signals and he's not allowed to talk to Harbaugh. And like this, it was like rumblings and inklings of this leading up to it. So there's no telling like how this was kind of bubbling. But again, the whistleblower on the inside was probably just gathering info. God bless whoever they are. But I honestly had no clue until it came out in the news, until it was breaking news. I had no idea. I'm not on the Tennessee message board. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's my answer, I guess, Nevada.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, obviously, I mean, the story that I've always heard was that this was always related. This is fruit. This whole thing came out as a result of the Weiss thing, and that when they were looking at Weiss's computer, and that Michigan's trying to establish their liability, as to the pictures and the encrypted portion of the of his devices, and that this is when they found that out, and that they hired a firm to kind of investigate what this was all about, and that firm investigated it, and that's what they presented to the NCAA. That's why the NCAA was so far advanced on this, because this law firm had already done all the work. But it was the fruit of a Michigan investigation into potential sex crimes against minors, which was the fear about those images on the on Weiss's devices, because they didn't know the ages of the girls. And so that's what I mean, it'll be interesting to see if we ever get the full story in terms of how it
Right.
came to be, and this and that, and what. But I remind people all the time, people think the NCAA is like the FBI, and it's got like 10,000 investigators and little Elliot Nesses running around and stuff like that. And it's not that way at all, man. Like, that's why the schools generally do the investigations. The schools do the investigations like Tennessee did, and then they present all the stuff to the NCAA, and then so they kind of compile it and use it as part of their deliberations. But in this case, I mean, it was done for another purpose, and it was provided to the NCAA under different pretenses, but the institution wasn't playing ball. The institution wasn't getting by. The institution didn't this was not self-reported. You know what I'm saying? So, that
Well,
I just don't know how they're not cooked.
well, Nevada, I think you bring up such an excellent point that people need to understand is that the NCAA and the member institutions all agree to be the ones when something happens. They're the ones that catch it. They're the ones that investigate it. Even if someone, say this does somehow it slip through the cracks of your compliance, you are supposed to seize evidence, turn it over, go above and beyond, because they need you to do that, because they're not the FBI. And the goal of athletics and everyone playing together is that so it's fair, that all these rules
Yeah.
are fair. So in Michigan, and I think you're seeing this in the punishments leading up, and you guys do a good job covering that, is when there are violations and something this system doesn't work, they come down on you even harder. So this, we haven't seen one where they literally fight it every step of the way while doing just about everything you can imagine wrong they've done. So yeah, this is definitely something to go. And as far as I told someone I'll do this, so I post a lot of stuff on those message boards, right? Like with Chris Balas and all those guys. And I gotta give a shout out to one of the person that helps me on that. It's Daniel Novak. He's a friend of your guys' show. He loves your
What's
show.
up, Dan? We call him Wise Dan. What's up, brother?
So I told him I'd do that. But yeah, I do think it's very strange as far as from the Michigan media side that they keep blaming Ryan Day's brother for this.
Jesus.
And it is from what I've investigated on that. It's Uncle T who has hired a private investigator, and they still claim to have the goods on Ryan Day's brother, and they're just waiting to release it. So, if Chris Blas, if you're hearing this, release the evidence. I know you see my messages because I know you do. I watch you respond to some of the things I've said. Release the evidence on his brother. Why have you held on to it for so long?
Because there
They're
is
waiting.
none.
They are patient people, man. They're laying in the weeds, man. They're waiting. They're just gonna just jump up and just like lop our heads off of it. It's Ryan Day's brother, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting for
Oh,
that to happen. Yeah,
that
that's
is
gonna
hilarious. He
happen.
said, "Lop our heads off." That's
Yes,
anytime now. You talk
yeah.
about the mocking the hammer. Oh, anytime now for the hammer. Well, anytime now for the receipts on Ryan Day's brother. How about that? Let's do a skeleton on the bench holding the Ryan Day's brother sign instead of the hammer. Let's do that. But real quick, we're a little over an hour, and I'm enjoying this
Yes.
thoroughly. But I did want to remind you, Nevada, that you mentioned you wanted him to touch on the Connor Stallions on the Central Michigan sideline, and then maybe we can slide into super chats.
Yeah, just really quick. I mean, just your take on that whole thing in terms of, I mean, Central Michigan obviously lost. Jake Coster lost his job. My belief, absolutely, is that McElwain lost his job as well. You don't resign from a job like that with millions of dollars left on that. How do you think that whole thing plays in the eyes of the NCAA in terms of this thing? Is that a Michigan failure to monitor joint, or is that just a Connor Stallions 10 years show cause, lifetime show cause type of thing? Or how do you think that plays?
Every single instance in which there is a violation in that program enhances the failure to monitor, because each one of those is something to do with monitoring, whether it's they're able to subvert the mechanisms in place or whether they just outright broke the rules and positions in authority let it happen. So as far as the failure to monitor goes, every one of those 10 violations that leads to that, the one that's the most important, are failure to monitors. Like they should have been monitoring him. As far as the innocuous texts, right? I think that's the most interesting part about the Stallions, because what Michigan fans are doing is being like, this guy was just completely doing it on his own. And why is he on the sidelines? I think the most important thing is that there's text between Sharon Moore and Connor Stallions about, I believe it's Jim McElwain, about a meeting. It was a meeting with Jake
No,
Costner.
Jake,
Yeah,
Jake
Meeting with
Costner. Yeah.
Jake Costner. I want to get it right. With Jake Costner. So he immediately, when the news broke that this was uncovered, he deleted those texts. And in those texts, which they say are innocuous, which, by the way, if you look at the response NOA, the NCAA is not saying those are innocuous, because
right.
he's talking with him about sign stealing. So he clearly knows he's stealing signs. Now, they'll say he doesn't know he was doing it illegally. But one of them, and it says this in there, and Ross Dellinger, I think he's a good reporter. He literally says, perhaps the most interesting one is in regards to this meeting. So I'm sure the NCAA look into that meeting. I think it's a very silly thing for him to do, but he obviously needed help from CMU. And the fact that he's wearing spy glasses over there shows that he was probably pre-scouting Michigan State. So yeah. I mean, to me, I don't want any of this put on Stallions, because this is all monitoring. He needed to be monitored. This shouldn't have happened. Someone
Yeah.
like Sherrone Moore, if he got wind that there was something weird going on, he there should be a culture to report this. And that's why you see the rumblings of go up to the line and cross it. That was the culture
Yes.
under Harbaugh. Because this all speaks to failing to monitor this big charge that's coming. And all that just pushes evidence towards it. So that's why, as you finish up here, if people really believe a hammer's not coming from Michigan, you need to explain why that level 1 failure to monitor, why the evidence isn't so strong on that, and why the aggravating factors don't line up to why that's not an aggravated level 1 failure to monitor. And if you can do that, I will retweet it on X and I'll try to make you famous. But good luck.
Yeah. Any response to that, Nevada?
No, well said. I mean, I totally agree, yeah, I think the idea that this lone, it just we've gone over and over again about how, if you don't just leave on a Friday night and just head over with your spy glasses and do a thing. And when you talk about
Right.
like who could have provided extra evidence or more flavor or whatever it is, I mean, you think about the guys that are the weakest link on this whole thing. Jake Costner's got to be a pretty weak link because he probably wants to coach again at some point in the thing. And I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
speculating,
Good
but
point.
like it would seem like he would have a lot of incentive to sing like a canary and talk about what exactly was going on and who knew what and what went on in that meeting with Sharon Moore and stuff like that. So I
Also, one last thing, you just ring a light bulb in my head. My source that says the amended NOA that pointed me towards that being important said that the person that did come forward with that material evidence, they would have likely been someone who wanted to continue coaching. That's why they
Yes.
came forward. So we'll see who that is. It would be interesting if it was Costner.
I
That
mean
makes sense.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we transition to super chats, the chat is hilarious. I love y'all, man. I'm seeing all types of mocking Ryan Day's brother. Is Ryan Day's brother in the room with you right now? What else did I see? A few other comments. I can't find them now, but y'all are hilarious, and I love y'all. Greatest chat on earth in the world. So, but anyway, so let's get to some super chats. So the first one here, we got the great Joshua Dillon 728. Thanks for the $4.99. Thanks for being a Scoop Ultra member. What's sad is that Michigan fans will never take responsibility for this. They are a black mark on college sports. You cheated, UM fans. Own it. I 1000% agree. I've dealt with them for too long. Like I said, they're on my page. They're on social media. They refuse to acknowledge this. Now, when this hammer does indeed drop and reality sets in, will that jar some of them to the point where they'll at least admit it? I'm not confident. Intrinsic, Nevada, what's y'all's thoughts? Intrinsic, you go first. Do you think it's possible this come to Jesus situation that's about to hit them with this hammer is going to turn some of them in a righteous fashion, to be honest, or no?
I'm already logging the excuses. I think a lot of them, they're gonna just say the administration's weak. They're gonna try to throw in certain people who don't matter on the bus. So no, I don't see accountability coming unless the NCAA really does what's right here and does something that crushes the culture. I mean, everyone who's there needs to be gone. I mean, that's the way this should go. So no, I don't see accountability.
Nevada?
NCAA overreach. Didn't see it coming. Nobody mentioned it. This. I mean, you guys, you know what's the accountability is way down the list, man. We're about 9 phases away from getting to accountability from the Michigan fans. But yeah, so put me down for a big no.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go with no, but real quick, this is a great opportunity for me to show an early and quick turnaround on this receipt. Remember, Nevada, a few pods ago, we were talking about this same thing. What's going to be their response? And remember, I said you heard it here first. They're going to point at the COI infraction roster and any Ohio State ties. They're going to point to that. Well, looky here. This is from my page earlier today. You can, I mean, they're just dumb. But look at the end. It says the Buckeyes and Penn State have people on the board talking about the NCAA. Already, quick turnaround before the hammer. They're already sprinkling that narrative out there. I wanted to show you that, Nevada, because I was just like, see, I'm a prophet out here.
You are a prophet.
So Jim Stapleton is one of the COI, and he's a Michigan guy. If you have any conflict of interest, you are not allowed on that panel.
You got to be recused, right? Yep.
You'll absolutely be recused. You will not be allowed on that panel.
Yep. So there's that. Michigan fans. But anyway, so Bobby Heath 2474. Thanks for the 2. Halfdoor just broke the world record deadlift. FYI. So for those Half Tour fans, I had to Google it when I first saw it, and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I have seen him before, but I don't really follow. Any thoughts on that?
Wow, that's quite that's quite
Pretty good.
amazing. That's pretty good. What do you know? What the record was?
Let me see. It said he pulled 501. Let me say it in a different way. 1,105 pounds in 2020. This time he did. Let me see if it shows. It's not. It's got a video. I can't pull it. I'm not about to pull up the video. He did better than that. He did 1105 in 2020. He exceeded that, I guess. So there you go.
That's a lot. That's a lot of weight.
Definitely a lot of weight.
I wonder if the three of us could do that together. Like the three of us, we get together, we get Intrinsic, we get B Moses and Nevada Bucket and opponent. We'd see if we could pull that. I'm not sure we could do it. I'm not sure we could do it.
Yeah. No, thank you. My back already screaming right now.
You'd have to
Just
pull about
thinking.
800 pounds, and we'll do like 150 each or something like that.
Just thinking about it, my back hurts. All right, Deon Jackson 313. What's good, man? Thanks for the 5. If I go into a store, listen to this logic, y'all. Very simple. Michigan fans, smack yourself so it can shake your brain loose. You can try to understand. If I go into a store and steal and get caught, I don't get to keep the item. Michigan doesn't get to keep stolen wins and championships. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Man, like, is this understandable? Nevada, Intrinsic, please. I mean, like, Deon broke it down. Like, explain it to me like I'm 5. You can't make it more plain than that. What's y'all's thoughts?
Well, I'd like the example where they're saying, hey, if you cheated on all the exams up to the final, but then you didn't cheat on the final, and they caught you, you failed the class, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so what if you didn't cheat in the last 3 games or 5 games or whatever it is? You cheated. The cheating directly impacted you getting to that place, and you shouldn't be rewarded for that. And I don't think the NCAA is going to reward them.
Hey, on top of that, when the narrative comes out that the NCAA did harm to players who are still on the team who had nothing to do with cheating, just know that Sherrone Moore, that coaching staff, they knew what they were facing. So if those kids don't know that they're looking at a postseason ban, that is on Michigan.
Yep.
That is on Michigan, not the NCAA. I think it's important people understand that. Oh, you're hurting these kids that had nothing to do with it. Well, they should have been informed. So that's another point on that.
Yep. I mean, it's pretty clear, pretty clear, man. But so listen, that's it for the super chats. But this has been excellent. This has been great as I thought it would be. This brother Intrinsic, if y'all have not already followed him on X, go to X and click follow. Follow this man. Great information. And as you can see, just a solid dude and nothing but the facts and receipts, y'all. And so, just like we told Sports Talk Jay the other day, got to bring you back on, man. When this hammer drops, we gotta circle back and assess and break down. So, Nevada, I'm assuming I don't even have to ask you. I'm assuming you're on board with that, right?
Well, yeah, but I want his little logo to have a little party hat on it or something like that. Just like so we can do it. And I want everybody that's listening to like this video, man. This video, because this is a great video, and the great Intrinsic came on, gave us an hour plus of his time, and we're just so grateful for it, man. Because I love talking to smart people, and I feel like I got smarter just in this 75 minutes. So I really appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me on. And yeah, I look forward to it. I feel like we're close. Yeah,
I do too. And Nevada, I'm Mr. Meme Photoshop. I can easily throw a party hat on that eye. So just remind
let's
me.
Do it. Let's do it.
I got you. But listen, until next time, we love y'all. Appreciate y'all, Buckeye Scoop, and we will see you later. Peace. Go Bucks and go Sparty. Right? Intrinsic. Peace.
Yeah.